JC, as AutoCAD has evolved through the years and been enhanced through the releases, especially for 3D, AutoCAD 2010 has brought huge improvements regarding kind of the ergonomic freeform shapes that you can do in AutoCAD. How would you use those, especially being in the industry and teaching manufacturing? How do you take advantage of that new functionality?
Well, Heidi, if you take a look at what the tools we've been using in AutoCAD from the old days of solids and simple surfaces to when AutoCAD 2007 came out and we had more complex shapes with lofts and sweeps and revolves, and also the ability to create surfaces as slicing tools. Add that new functionality in AutoCAD 2010 with meshes. So think about the tools we have now, creating that mouse that we use every day, and how difficult that may have been in the past makes it real simple to do new conceptual designs in a mesh form. So when we can take those faces or those edges and move them or scale them or rotate them and grab the shapes that we want, I think that's a great enhancement and a great tool that we didn't have before, especially for visualization and conceptual design.
And get those smooth, ergonomic shapes. Now, what about using them as solids or outputting maybe to a 3D printer? I bet you have a 3D printer.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I think you had one years ago before I even knew what that was.
Right. If we take a look at the ability to create those mesh shapes, what I've been teaching is create the mesh shapes and convert that to a solid or a surface. But let's just talk about creating it to a solid. Once we create it to the solid, we can revert back to those tried and true techniques that we've been using for many years to create the shape we want. But also, if we set the del OBJ system variable to 0, now we have our mesh, we have our solid, and we can create those two at the same time. So mesh, convert it to solid, you have both. Go back to the mesh, keep refining it, and keep creating multiple solid shapes till you get the basic shape you want, and then enhance that solid shape. Pretty neat technique.
That is great advice, and that del OBJ variable, that's a great trick, because sometimes you want that backup anyway, right? So that you've got it to change and manipulate and maybe create different versions, different variations of your design.
Heidi, you're absolutely right. Even though I've been using AutoCAD for many, many years, I still consider myself a beginner, because every release of AutoCAD that comes out changes the way we think and the way we do things. And especially in modeling, we need to have that base fundamental shape that we can use over and over again. So we never delete that construction geometry or that beginning geometry, that revolved or mesh geometry or lofted geometry, because we know we're going to have to come back and use it again.
Great advice. That's one of the first things I do, is set that variable. Great. Thanks, JC.
Thank you.